and here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
RCPA chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, roll, Atlantis.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside FD off. Bring in FD off. Off. It's orange! 145!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
Look at this!
Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
If the methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You good? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Good morning, good night, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is NSF's live coverage of the Falcon 9 launch of Starlink Group 10-51. But as you can see there are some lightning in the background. I don't know if that's gonna be in effect for today, but yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. Of course, you probably know already my voice. I'm Alex, as usual. I'm gonna be the host for this launch coverage. Hopefully, an actual launch coverage, not like yesterday, which we had an S word. I'm not gonna say that because otherwise, that's gonna jinx this this attempt. But if you were watching yesterday, you probably already know what happened. But, you know, as always, I'm not going to be alone. I'm also going to be here with Marty. Marty, how's it going?
Good morning, Alex. Yesterday's attempt ended in quite a disappointment. But for today, I'm thinking clear skies, happy thoughts, and all that stuff. So hopefully we'll get to see a launch in just a bit.
Yeah, and so, you know, today, this Starlink launch coverage is a bit of a special one. And I say that because for the first time in a long while, I have to say we don't have anybody in the field. And the reason for that is because at the neighboring Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, because this is Falcon 9 at Launch Complex 39A at the Kennedy Space Center, but neighboring to that is the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, way down south. I think it's like 10 miles away from this launch pad is the other launch pad that you can see there on the left-hand side. That is Launch Complex 36, where New Glenn is sitting and getting ready for a liftoff later today. Way later today. But, you know, in short, folks, you know, our field team, they are very busy. They have been preparing yesterday all of the remotes. They have been preparing all of their hardware and everything to be ready to cover that launch. And therefore, today we gave them a rest. So it's going to be just a special one, just Marty and me. And, you know, the usual drill of tagging at NASA Spaceflight in chat at NSF. We'll answer your questions. We'll be here sort of a little bit of more in family, if you will, more cozy. But we're going to miss the people in the field. But hey, they're taking a little bit of a rest. Shall we? Right? Let's give them that. But of course, as well as usual, we're going to have a producer. And for this one, just like yesterday's attempt, it's going to be Carson pulling all the levers, pushing all the buttons, and hopefully my PC doesn't crash while I say that, just like yesterday. In any case, Marty, can you tell me a little bit and maybe remind people what happened yesterday about this mission? And of course, you can see there that reminder about the socials. You probably saw already some of those that information in the socials if you were around and you follow us on those. But you know, Marty, can you do us that favor, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So yesterday we were waiting for this mission, Starlink 10-51, and it was supposed to launch 29 Starlink satellites on booster B1069 on its 28th flight. And then we were approaching liftoff, and in just the last few seconds, the launch director called hold. This is, and yeah, that, as you might imagine, called the end of the launch attempt. And I thought I said disabled all my alarms, but I didn't. Oops.
It's okay. It's the middle of the night. It's early morning here in Europe as well.
Yeah,
I can forgive you. Also by
but
saying the whole word as well, because you were quoting the launch director, so we forgive you.
it's a quote. It wasn't meant to say anything about today's attempt.
Exactly. Yes,
Um,
yes, yes, yes.
and if
It's
yeah,
not a jinx.
but when that happened, the launch didn't go ahead, and the reason for
Mhm.
that apparently was weather in the recovery zone. So hopefully everything is clear for this attempt, but we'll have to see.
Yeah. Yeah, we're seeing, as I said at the intro, and as a few people in the chat have already realized, there are some quite like that lightning, right? It's sort of on the other side. It's way beyond in the horizon. Well, beyond. I mean, it's visible, right? But like what I mean, it's like it's way in the distance in the direction of the flight because today's launch, the Starlink launch, is heading northeast, which is sort of in that direction, general direction that we're seeing here. All of that lightning. Wow, look at that. But yesterday the problem was the recovery weather. Do we think that all of this lightning extends all the way out there to like 600 kilometers downrange where the drone ship is? Not not sure, but
No, just having a look at some weather maps. It's not one singular bunch of lightning that extends all the way up there, but the weather roughly around the recovery zone doesn't seem too good either. On the other hand, SpaceX has been able to thread the needle before, so they might be able to do that this time as well.
yeah, we can see there some of the hazard zones for both for launch and for landing, as well as
Yep.
fairing splashdown out there in the Atlantic. This will be both ocean and air hazard zones, right? Like not Mars, no TAMS, all of the different acronyms, right? And but yeah, it's gonna be northeast. It's gonna be probably the last one for a little while. We may talk about that in a bit because I received a little bit of feedback. I actually read the comments, folks. I read what you say, and there was actually on our socials. I should shout out our socials for this because it was also pointed out on Facebook. So I'll probably talk about this in just a few minutes, but let's keep to the weather because one of the things that we talked about yesterday, Marty. I don't know if you remember, we were talking about the fact that we didn't have an official weather forecast from the Space Launch Delta 45, and we said, well, maybe it's because of the government shutdown or whatever. But then we had one for the Escapade launch later today, so maybe they just forgot because it's the 39A launch pad or something like that. I don't know.
No, I don't know either. Or they think the Escapade mission is more important, so they are redirecting available resources to that mission and not to a mission like this.
Hmm.
But honestly, I don't know too much about the inner workings of the US government, so
Yeah.
I couldn't comment for sure on that.
Yeah, it almost seems like they just completely forgot about this launch, or for whatever reason they just didn't acknowledge that for the weather forecast. Because right now we will be showing it that document, and we'll be talking about the probability of violation or probability of go conditions. We will be talking about what are the concerns for today's launch, right, and all that stuff. And unfortunately, we cannot do that because that document is not up there, right, on that website. So it's a bit of a pickle that we are right now because it's like we want to talk about the weather and unfortunately we don't have that information other than what we can see there, all of those flashes in the background. But it's like, is that far away enough that they can still launch? Is it really on the track for this rocket trajectory, right? We don't really know, so we'll have to just rely on our own okay, that's funny. Carson. Well, yeah, I mean, sure, I guess. That works. Let's see. I just saw in chat there's a goal. 10 teal super chats, then T0 will happen. Dot 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 dot. It's not 3 dots, it's 4 dots, I think. If my eyesight is still good,
It
it's 4
is.
dots.
I'm
Uh,
hoping the rocket will obey our YouTube goals.
I hope so. I do hope we get a launch in less than 50 minutes. Not just because of the weather or anything like that, but again because we also have the New Glenn launch later today. I'm also gonna be on commentary for that one, so I do hope that this one gets off on time because yeah, I'm also writing Starbase update by the way. I'm just leaking everything here. Like I'm talking about the things that I'm working on and everything because why not? It's early morning. We're having a fun time here together trying to see if this thing launches on time. But you guys submitted your questions. I said the whole thing about tagging at NASA spaceflight and all that. And I'm already seeing some of those questions, so I'm going to take them. For example, there are already a few about New Glenn because I talked about that at the beginning. So, of course, I'm going to handle those. First one is from Shadow, I guess, will be the way to say this. The New Glenn launch still appears to be scheduled for the afternoon. Did they get an exception from the FAA daytime launch ban? Marty, what's going on with that?
Yeah, for those not in the loop, the FAA is limiting or will be limiting launches, or at least commercial launches, very soon to nighttime only. And that is because of limited availability of air traffic controllers as a result of the government shutdown. However, that ban or curfew will get into effect from November the 10th, and New Glenn's first attempt will be on the 9th. So, if they can launch today, they won't be affected at all. And if not, we'll have to see.
Yeah, this is one of those things that we sort of touched on this on Friday on the Flame Trend show. Like, apart from whatever drove the decision, who leaving that aside, right? Like, what is exactly what is being sort of banned here, right? And one of the things that was talked about it was that Escapade, if it launches later today on Sunday, November the 9th, it's still before that order comes into effect, right? So it's like, okay, well, it's safe. Just like this launch, yesterday it was supposed to launch at 7 a.m. And if you look at the emergency order, it bans flights between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. local time, which would have meant that yesterday's launch attempt will not have been able to happen because it was going to be at 7 a.m. But because it was before that order was going to be coming into effect, then it was fine, right? So the same thing happens as well with NASA's Escapade launch with New Glenn. But of course, if it delays 24 hours, like say, it does an S word later today, and then it delays, and then they go on Monday or Tuesday or whatever, right? That's already within the emergency order. What will happen? Well, Blue Origin seems to have been talking about the possibility that they may be able to negotiate about this. And I'm sure that NASA Acting Administrator Sean Duffy can talk to Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy and have a word with him so that they can have an exception for the launch of NASA's Escapade.
They seem to be very well connected, these people.
Yeah, right? The amazing connection between agencies and everything. It's probably anyways. But yeah, there's also the whole thing about, what do they mean actually by commercial space launch? Because there's a whole there's a whole thing there in the sense that does it mean an FAA licensed launch or just any sort of launch, right? Um and a lot of people, extending a little bit more into this whole discussion because we still have more time, is the matter that some people think, well, it's carrying an NASA payload, so of course it's gonna be exempt. It's like, well, but a lot of NASA launches these days, because of the way that they are being contracted. Ooh, look at that! That was a really good, nice lightning ball there.
Yeah.
because of the way that they are being contracted and everything, new way of doing things and whatnot, they are FAA licensed launches and reentries as well. Because Crew Dragon missions to the ISS carrying people with NASA astronauts, when they launch, it's an FAA licensed launch, and when they come back, it's an FAA licensed reentry. So we talked about this on the Flame Trench as well, that it was like, well, if this also counts as commercial space launch, because if you go to the FAA website, right, it sort of talks about commercial space launch as the kinds of launches that they license, right? And also the reentries and all that. So it's like, well, if for whatever reason they needed to come back from the ISS during this emergency order in daylight, does that count? Does it get an exemption just because it's special? Like it gets very wacky, I guess, of a situation. But yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, well,
I do think that if they need an exception for something, they will able to arrange it. Just
yeah.
like with the administrator talking to the transportation guy, who are the same person, like you said.
Hmm.
But yeah, at the moment, with just the rules as published, it's very, very vague and unclear what's allowed to happen and what's not. So
It is.
we'll just have to see when that happens, and let's hope it's not needed to discuss any emergencies.
And to be honest, like I understand the reasoning behind that, right? Like they want to restrict these launches to nighttime operations for to offload some of the work of ATC and all that. But also at the same time, it feels like it's putting more of a toll in the companies, in the sense that now you're grouping a lot of these launches now overnight, right? Like for example, we've got on November 14th, there are we had the delay of the Atlas V launch with the Viasat 3 satellite, right? And that one was delayed by about a week, and it got delayed to November 14th based on the multiple different hazard zones that are being released for that mission. Wow, that's some impressive lighting. And so it was delayed to that date, but SpaceX is also scheduling another launch that day as well, on the same sort of 10 p.m. Eastern time launch liftoff time, right? Because it's like, because now you've got two different companies trying to launch different missions around the same nights, because you have constricted and you have restricted all of this to just a very narrow window, like 8 hours in a day. So it starts getting congested overnight then all of a sudden. So I don't know. And then also the fact that the launches happen for like 10 minutes. In theory, there's a NOTAM, notice to air missions, notice to airmen, whatever you want to call them. There are NOTMARs as well for marine notices, right? And it's like, yes, the launch has a window, and these notices also have a window. But if you have good connection with ATC and all that, like you don't need to move air traffic around that much. So yeah, and there's a whole discussion to be had about how to improve the way that airspace is closed around launches, and have it being closed only for extremely the shortest amount of time that you can, right? And the safest window in that sense. But whatever, we'll see if this goes away very quickly. So we are approaching 40 minutes, and you know what that means, Marty? We should be getting close to that propellant load in just a few minutes, right?
We should. So at T-38, which is just a few minutes from now, the launch director will verify go for propellant load. So if they believe they have a reasonable chance to thread the needle and get around the weather, they might start loading propellants at T-35 minutes in, just about 5 minutes for now. And that will be starting with loading liquid oxygen and also RP1 or rocket grade kerosene onto stage 1 and also RP1 onto stage 2. And then as we get further into the timeline, they will prepare to start loading liquid oxygen onto stage 2 at T-16. At T-7, the rocket will begin chilling its engines in preparation of lighting them up. And then later in the countdown, loading will complete. Falcon 9 will take over control of the count. Hopefully will pull go for launch. And then at T0, Falcon 9 should lift off into the skies.
Yep, hopefully we get through all of those milestones as we count down here to launch in just under 39.5 minutes.
Yeah, and we don't usually have verification at the time when
Yeah.
LD verifies go for propellant load, right? So how will we see that happens?
Frost, because it's going to
Frost.
get cold. Yep, and that should be visible around T-minus 32 minutes, so in about 7 minutes or so, we should see that. Hopefully this time we'll actually see it compared to yesterday. Yesterday we got a lot of fog. That was from the Van Landy. We said very bad things about Vandenberg on the Flame Trench on Friday, and so of course yesterday we got fogged, and also we had an S word because of weather downrange, of course. But I should probably address what I talked about at the beginning, where it was like, we got feedback, I guess, in our comments on social media as well, about what I talked about yesterday, which was why is it that this is going to be the last Northeast Starlink launch for a little while. And I mentioned that the main reason for them to be switching between Northeast and Southeast launches is because of the weather, right? Precisely, this launch is going to the Northeast. And as I said, that's going to be the last one, at least that we know of, for a little while. In the meantime, they're going to be launching to the Southeast. Now, the reason why they're launching to the Southeast in this season is because of the weather. It's better now on the southern portions when you approach sort of the Caribbean and things like that. Obviously, that area in the summer is not great. You can encounter hurricanes and things like that, right? But in the winter months or late fall months, you have much better weather there than what you will see on the North Atlantic. Now, the reason why I say that is because that is the way that the condition goes. It's not that they launch to the Southeast and, oh my gosh, by pure luck, we have good weather. It's that there is good weather to the Southeast, therefore they launch Southeast. Coming up, we're going to have multiple Group 6 missions. We already have had the return of one of those a few days ago. And those launch to the Southeast. But they don't need to launch to the Southeast. These are missions that go to 43-degree inclination orbits. And they could easily launch to the Northeast. But they don't do that because it's just not great for the weather downrange for recovery. As we saw yesterday, you can get bad weather downrange for booster recovery and therefore have to S-word delay, I guess, your launch, to say a word that may not be jinxed. And then you can see on Next Space Flight some of those upcoming missions. It's too tiny in my screen, but again, there we go. So you have 687, 689, 685, 94. There's many more down the line that are going to be coming up. But the whole reason they're doing these Group 6 missions now, if you look at the calendar, they have not done those for a long while. I mean, the last one was around May, and then they did not do another Group 6 mission until just last week. And the whole reason for that is because Group 6 missions are those that they can do to the Southeast. They've only done one single mission to the Southeast for Group 10. Group 10 is a bit of a higher inclination. And going to the Southeast will mean having to land directly in the middle of the Bahamas. If you remember, there was a mission a while ago, around February, that did just that. And that was a Group 10 mission. They landed directly in the middle of the Bahamas Islands, right there with a drone ship stationed sort of in the middle of the group of islands there, and that's what they did. But they have not tried that again, and might not try it for a little while. But that was sort of the thing that I wanted to explain here. Sort of as a feedback to the feedback, if you will, because we read your comments, we do answer your questions whenever we can, and I thought we could clear that out, that it's sort of the other way around. It's not that they launch to the southeast because of the group and therefore wow, good weather. No, it's that they're chasing the good weather first, and that turns out to be a certain group of missions, group 6 missions in particular. In any case, we should be now under propellant load if that clock has not stopped, right? If there's no holds or anything, we should be already underway. But Marty, as we said before, what are we going to wait for?
There should, in just a few minutes, if they're indeed loading propellants, there should be some ice forming on the booster. And that is because the propellant that they're loading is very, very cold. So all the humidity in the Florida air will freeze onto the booster surface. And the nice thing about these Falcon 9s is that they're reused. So they're very sooty. And that means that the wide buildup of ice is very, very visible on these boosters, as long as there's no fog in between the booster and the camera, of course.
Yeah, so we'll see if we can see that frost in a few minutes. But we're gonna answer a few more questions. I also see some support. I'm gonna hit that later after the frost. But first, questions. We've got here from Wick1D, I guess. The -28 on the booster ID indicates it's the 28th flight, or am I wrong? That seems insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
Marty, care to explain a little bit about that?
It is the 28th flight of this booster. And yeah, that is kind of insane. But SpaceX has been really turning around these boosters over and over and over. And for this one, at the start of its career, it didn't seem like it would fly a lot because it had quite a rough recovery on its very first flight. But they managed to fix all the problems and fix up the booster. And since then, it has flown many Starlink missions. So its very first mission was CRS-24, a cargo Dragon mission to the space station. But since then, it has flown mostly communication satellites, including many Starlink missions. And actually, this is not even the very first booster to reach this many missions. The fleet leader is up to 31, if I recall correctly, and that happened just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, that was B1067, and I'm sure chat will love me for saying that, I guess. But yeah, that is the king, the queen, whatever you want to use, right, of the fleet. But as we can see there, we are now solidly, or should I say, coldly into propellant load, because we can see there that frost on the booster. So that is indication of propellant load.
Well, ice is solid, so I'd say we're solidly into propellant load.
True.
And also liquidly, because the propellants are liquid.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, this is going very, very fluidly. I don't know. Okay, I butchered the pun, but you get what I mean. In any case, we have confirmation of propellant load already underway. That's great. That's what we want. And now I'm going to hit some of that support. So we've got here, of course, because now people are trying to hit the goal here in chat. The Guardian 441, just to get the ball rolling. Thank you, NSF team, for making it so special. Thank you for the support, as usual. You know, just showing up is already enough support, and liking and sharing all of the things that tickle the algorithm, as we say, right? Sharing and liking and subscribing, all of that is free. So you don't need to support monetarily or anything like that. The goal thing, somebody set that up. I don't know why. Then we have Newtopia Labs, 8436. thanks, 8 more to go. Then we've got the same person again, another one, and then we've got oh yeah, one more as well from them, and we've
So,
got Flippers, very well-known members of the NSF team, gifting 5 Rent Team memberships. So that is 5 more people that will get to enjoy the membership program. As you probably know, you have access to things like member multi-views and things like a few pictures here and there from our teams out there in the field. I know at least our field team there in Florida yesterday, they were able to get on a boat and being able to photograph and take videos of New Glenn out there at the pad. So you probably will enjoy that content as well. The Guardian 441 again with another super chat. Appreciation all the team does for us. And well, we also appreciate your support as usual. There we can see, in fact, a metal print. Well, a print in general, because you can actually have the metal print / the paper print nowadays. We have both types. So you can have whatever type you prefer of New Glenn out there on the pad. The same one that is going to be launching hopefully later today.
and I believe, Alex, that this is one of the pictures that Max took yesterday from the boat, as you said.
Yeah.
So you can
That's
buy one
cool.
of these pictures and get it onto your wall. And it's a great picture.
Yeah. I wish we had some kind of point-to-point delivery or something like that, because then they can get it up on their walls even before the launch happens. Can you imagine? How would that be?
That would be amazing.
That would be great. Yeah.
Then,
It's like, hey,
just prepare for the launch with decorating your room.
exactly right.
Like getting the Christmas tree out, but then getting the rocket posters out for the launch.
Indeed. And on the topic of New Glenn, we have also a question here from a little bit earlier asking about the third flight of New Glenn. And I know Marty and I, we both have been writing about this for a long while on Twist, that it's supposed to be with the Mark 1 lander. What is going on with that mission?
Yeah. So as you might know, Blue Origin is working on a couple of moon landers for NASA's Artemis program. They are working on the Mark 1 lander, which is supposed to be an uncrewed version of their lander. That doesn't mean it will necessarily be small. It will still be the biggest thing to have landed on the moon ever. But they're also working on Mark 2, which is their version of their human lander design that might at some point carry astronauts to the lunar surface. And the work that's going into Mark 1 is definitely a lot of work to get everything nailed down for that Mark 2 lander.
Yeah.
And the third New Glenn mission, scheduled for somewhere early next year, will actually attempt to test that very blue moon Mark 1 lander.
Yeah, we'll see if they get that on time. Of course, it's going to depend on how the pre-launch testing of that lander goes, right? And then we'll see once it's launched if it succeeds getting to the moon. I think just getting it out there in space, it's still quite an achievement because there are not a lot of people out there. I mean, I'm thinking, for example, of Astrobotic when they launched their Peregrine lander on Vulcan's first launch, and then right after separation, it had an issue, and it was like, well, but at least they got it up there, which is quite important. They got data out of that at the very least, and that's gonna feed into the Griffin lander and all that. So like, at least they got some experience, if you will, building all of that. So I'm really hopeful we see that in the next year, probably in the first half, maybe first quarter if they're lucky, right? And then we'll see if it gets to the moon and landing on the moon and all that, because it's quite a challenging problem.
We've seen that. We've seen that landing on the moon is not easy, and many attempts in recent years have failed for various reasons. And that's all because, new companies are trying to do this for the very first time. So if they get it into space, that's a big win already. If they get it anywhere close to the moon or even touch it down on the surface softly, that will be amazing.
Yeah. And people are already filling up the support queue here, trying to beat that goal. We have more support from Shazbert Hotbot 504. Let's hope this candlestick lights off and gets to orbit on the first attempt. Well, if you're talking about Falcon 9 for this mission in particular, yeah, it wouldn't be the first attempt. It already attempted yesterday, unfortunately. But if you're talking about New Glenn, I also hope it goes on the first attempt, because otherwise we will have a really busy Monday or Tuesday or whatever it's the backup opportunity for that one. And yeah, that will be a lot of work. Not that I complain about lots of work, but yeah, our field team it's limited. There's only just so many D's and Maxes and Julias and Sawyers, right? So yeah, Nutopia Labs again with another super chat. I miss Jack. I hope his new adventures is amazing. I also hope so, I guess. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see whenever he's allowed to talk about those, but I hope they are really amazing. We're gonna miss him, of course. I almost went in tears on Friday. I didn't say much because my answers are long. Imagine my farewells; they are worse. Mustang six the
Same.
fours. Yeah, right.
That was quite an emotional moment on stream there. But I wish Jack all the best, and I'm very happy for him.
Indeed. And we got also Mustang 6 the fours becoming a red team member. And Angela Teasdale, I think it is, 2692, becoming a PadRad member. Thank you for that as well. Welcome to the membership program. And then we've got Mr. Fluffy. I always love these nicknames. I've been down in Southern California visiting. Does the FAA restriction of launches from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. apply to Vandenberg too? Unfortunately, yes, because it applies to the National Airspace System. I think it is the acronym, the NAS. So yeah. Funny enough, this is another thing with the whole commercial space launch wording that there is in the executive order thing or the emergency order, whatever it's called, was that because launches of American made rockets or rockets are made by American companies or partially American companies even have to have a launch license under FAA even if they are launched abroad, which means there are rockets like Electron launching from New Zealand which have an FAA launch license, right? Back in the day when Sea Launch was partially owned by Boeing, the Zenith rocket also had a launch license by the FAA, even if it was launching from the middle of the Pacific, because it was partially owned by Boeing at the time. And so, obviously, that's not the case anymore, but Rocket Lab with Electron does have a commercial space launch license with the FAA. So, in theory, it will fall under that emergency order. However, their launches never cross the National Airspace System, and therefore, it's not a problem for them. They are not under that. However, coming back to the whole thing about Rocket Lab, they do have a launch pad on the National Airspace System in Wallops. So what's gonna happen with them? They're gonna be just looking out for that. They'll see what they do. I think it's in the middle of the night anyways, so it's not gonna be a problem. But it's just funny that this is also part of the problem of this emergency order. Nutopia Labs again with another super chat. Thanks for all these years being with you since Hoppy. Wow, that's a long while ago. That's like what, 5 years? 6 years? I cannot math, but it's been a long while.
Almost 6, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it was August 2019.
Yeah.
So over 6 years. Wow.
Over 6. Yeah.
Yeah, we are very close now to the T-Minus tournament event, so I'm going to hit real quickly a store message. Somebody got that max print, I think, the one about New Glenn out there on the pad. Eric saying, go blue, go Glenn, fare thee well, Jack. Now clean up that beard, man. Jeez, you got to be a pro now. Hey, there are people out there with really long beards and everything. They are really cool. But you know what's even longer? That cape that you can see there on the back of the Stromback as Falcon 9 readies for liquid oxygen load on the second stage. We've got our T minus 20-minute vent. Marty, what is this all about? Can you remind me, please?
Yeah. So in just a few minutes, they will start loading liquid oxygen onto the second stage. And to prepare for that, they're purging one of the lines on the Stromback that the liquid oxygen is going to flow through. They're doing that, I think, to cool down the lines ahead of this loading, because the materials that all that stuff is made up of can't really handle the sudden thermal shock from this frigid, absolutely ice cold propellant and oxidizer that's going through these lines. Just so to prepare for all that, they're chilling down the lines just so they can safely start loading the second stage with liquid oxygen in just a few minutes from now.
Yep, and in fact, once they begin that process of filling the liquid oxygen tank on the second stage, we'll see the disappearance, the I don't know, the vent will just be gone, I guess. I was gonna use some other expressions or whatever, but it's too late to think. But yeah, some people are asking what happened to Jack. So to recap a little bit, make it shorter, he's leaving NSF, okay, but he's going to a better place. The same thing that I said yesterday. No, but truly, you know, we're gonna miss him, and he already explained it in slightly more detail on the Flame Trench. He's going to an aerospace startup on the LA area, so you'll see him whenever he's allowed to talking about it. But that's pretty much the short version of it. For once, I'm giving a short answer. Wow, look at me.
Wow. I'm impressed, Alex.
Yeah, right. We got here another storm message because you know, guys, like this is another thing that a lot of people are not aware that when we are live, you can actually go to the shop and leave a message live because you can actually leave these things. So we've got here somebody giving getting a metal print acoustic energy saying good morning. Well, good morning, Brad. That's the name that they left there. Hope you are also in chat as well. And then we'll hit some more questions because somebody was asking, Hell Diving Kerbal, will there be a jellyfish tonight? Do you think it's the correct time for that, Marty?
I don't think so. These jellyfishes, which is an effect where the exhaust from the rocket lights up in sunlight while we ourselves are on the ground still. So that happens only just before sunrise or just after sunset. And we're ways away from either at this point. So no jellyfish tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say we're solidly in the middle, but we're close to the middle, right? In between the sunset and sunrise times. And so therefore, no, not a chance of this happening. And once they start propellant load, and we can obviously see that propellant load is well on the way on Falcon 9. Once that happens, the T0 is stuck. It's sort of like right there, and it doesn't move anymore. And that will be for today, 3 a.m., 10 minutes and 10 seconds past 3 a.m. Eastern Time. So we're going to see what happens, but that's essentially where we are right now. And I see the goal was already met.
So that means that we have to launch now. Someone
Yeah.
tell SpaceX, someone tell the rocket, someone tell the weather.
Yeah, now we need everything else to cooperate, I guess, to be able to do this today. Because otherwise, yeah. Gonna
At
be
very least, NSF is go, chat is go.
Oh, well. You know, this is the thing, right? We should probably do a poll or something of like, chat, go, store, go. Or something like that. Here at NSF or something like that. Carson, go. In any case. But yeah, let's hope no S words in chat, please. I think in fact if you put the word the S word in chat, actually Nightbot might strike you. Just saying. And then
Don't
the
tempt fate.
Guardian. Yeah, the Guardian was actually the one that crossed that milestone, could not leave it there. Yeah, it was 9 out of 10. So that super chat already make that goal crossed. So we are a bit under 15 minutes, and we can probably deal with some other things here. Let's jinx this launch, shall we? Shall we jinx? I think we should jinx. Because
think so?
there might be yeah. Let's
Okay.
maybe if we avoid talking about the S word,
Yeah.
we are jinxing it actually. But if we talk about some milestone or something happening, then we can unjinx it. I don't know. You know what I mean, right? Like
Okay.
manifesting something. How about that?
Let's try that strategy. Let's try that strategy.
Okay. So let's assume for a second that this launches. All right. Let's assume that this launches in 14 minutes. Well, there might be a certain record not beaten but matched, and that is the number of launches from the Space Coast in a given year. And that is because last year we had 93 launches across the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station and the Kennedy Space Center. Here you can see a very neat graphic that Ryan Caden put together. Fun fact, this was put together for the Atlas V launch because it was supposed to be the one. But unfortunately, we didn't use it on that mission. But so we had 93 launches between Kennedy Space Center and the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, with 86 of them being Falcon 9 rockets, 2 of them Falcon Heavy, 2 of them Atlas Vs, another 2 Vulcan Centaurs, and then 1 Delta IV Heavy. That was the last launch of Delta IV Heavy back in April of last year. So where are we in 2025? Well, we have had so far 87 Falcon 9 missions from the Space Coast, 3 Atlas Vs, 1 Vulcan, and 1 New Glenn. You do the math, that's 92. So if today's mission launches, then we're going to go to 93, and that means we're going to match the record from last year, and it's still November. So hopefully, if there are no more shenanigans about the emergency orders and whatnot, restricting daytime launches and all that, hopefully we can not only match but beat all of these milestones, and hopefully even get 100 launches from the Space Coast. Wouldn't that be great? It will be a really interesting one. But there we can see, what I said before of like, maybe if we talk about this milestone happening, it actually happens and we don't jinx it. And it's sort of like the opposite of, I don't know, whatever.
It would be very cool if that happens. And if we match the record on this flight, that might actually mean that New Glenn will break the record, which would be amazing with such an epic large vehicle to set the new record. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to things playing out that way.
Some people in chat, Korean style is saying, not listening. La, la, la. Yeah. Well, we've already talked about it, so yeah. Some people, shush, no, stop it, don't talk about it.
We haven't said the word, I don't think. So as long as
we haven't said the word.
Good.
Exactly. We just invoked the possibility that this might just S word because we talked about this milestone. I didn't want to do it yesterday precisely because of that, but I was forced to do it today precisely because of this as well. Anyway. Well, we are getting close here to T-minus 10 minute mark. We are very, very close now to just single digit minutes. So let's take one last question here before we go into sort of the terminal count, if you will. Somebody asking, what's the T-minus or T0, I guess, on NG2, on the New Glenn launch, because that's going to be later today. That's going to be at 2:45 p.m. Eastern. That's the opening of a roughly 90-minute launch window. It goes until 4:13 p.m. Eastern time. So that is the window for 2 days. I said today because here, at least where I am, it's later today. And even local time, it's also later today, even though it's many, many hours from now. But it is later today. Now, that mission is very important because not only it's carrying a NASA payload like Escapade, studying, Mars's magnetosphere and all the interactions with the atmosphere and all that, but it is also the second launch of New Glenn, and they are trying to recover that first stage, right? They tried it down on the first flight, and unfortunately, that didn't super work. And the whole reason it didn't work was because that entry burn didn't actually work, right? They had an issue during the relight of the engines for that entry burn, and unfortunately, it did not happen. The booster broke up in the air, and well, it never got any close to the barge. But hopefully, both Falcon 9 in just a few minutes, but also later today, that New Glenn, both can land on their own drone ships. Somebody was asking, when are you going to stop saying attempting to land on the drone ship? I think that was yesterday's launch coverage. It is because it's a really hard thing, but you can always remember what to do to launch, enter, and land your booster. Because if you go to our merch store, there we go. If you go to our merch store, we actually have a whole collection about this for the Falcon 9 edition. And you got the 9 Merlin engines on the way up, 3 for the entry burn and 1 for the landing burn. Sometimes it's a bit the opposite. It's like 1 for the entry burn, 3 for the landing burn, depending on what they do. But guess what? We also have the same thing for New Glenn as well. So you can also have that and sort of read your instructions, I guess, even though it's not the thing, right? For New Glenn, but it does also do a 3-engine entry burn, but it's got 7 engines on the way up, and the landing burn is still 1 engine. Although I think they might do like 3 engines at first and then down to 1. We'll have to wait and see how that goes, because it's the first time that we're seeing this rocket trying to seriously probably go through that phase. So yeah. And of course, many different colors. I saw there like green, red. Yeah, should be in blue. Just saying.
I've got to get myself that New Glenn shirt. It's really cool.
Yeah. There we go. In blue.
In blue, nice.
I'm
Very
sure the
fitting.
pink one will fit to D, for example. I know they like pink shirts and things like that.
Orange. All colors.
There's orange as well. Yeah. Anyways, so we are at T-minus 7 minutes. We are in one of those major milestone moments in our timeline. Marty, where are we?
Yeah, we are. Well, just a few seconds ago, Falcon 9 should have started the engine chill procedure. So what they're doing then is priming the engines, running some of that icy cold propellant through it to cool down the engines. Because as I said earlier, for the T-minus 20-minute vent, materials that all this stuff is made of can't really handle the sudden shock of that icy cold propellant flowing through them. And that's not a failure of the material SpaceX chose. That is like essentially any material will, doesn't like being cooled down from just ambient temperatures to minus 100, 200 so many degrees. So to prevent any issues, SpaceX will precondition the engines by chilling them down so that as the propellant starts flowing at T-minus 0 or just before T-minus 0, the engines will be fine and will start up just right.
Yeah. It's very much like the T-minus 20-minute vent that we saw earlier, right? It's that conditioning. I normally like to compare that. I guess it's just because I'm very sensible, I guess. Like when I go to a pool or like to the beach or whatever, I don't like getting into the water like like run into the water in the beach or like jump into the pool or something. I like to be the one that just tippy toes into the water, gets used to how cold it is, right? Like that sort of thing. That's what they're doing here. It is trying to condition, like at some point the pumps on the engines, the fluid lines on the transport reactor, they're gonna get cold, right? But instead of doing it all at once, jumping on the pool, for example, or running down the beach and getting into the water or whatever, you just tippy toeing into those conditions, getting close to that, but just slowly getting used to it, right? Getting that material conditioned for that cold temperature because it's a lot better. It gets used to it in some sense. It's not like it's sentient or anything, but the material sort of accommodates for the temperature changes and all that. It's this whole thing. There we go. Stromback retract has started. That's part of the process here as we tick down, but it's why I usually like to sort of compare that to that process because I'm the kind of person that tiptoes into the pool.
Very sensible strategy.
In any case, but yeah, we're now into the 4-minute mark here in the countdown. As we heard, the Stromag retract has started. That begins with the opening of the top clamp on the transport reactor. I'm seeing people roasting me in chat for some reason, but sure. And in a few seconds, we should see that structure actually moving away from the rocket. And what should be the next few things? Like what else is remaining?
Yeah, so, well, in just a few more seconds, the stage 1 should complete its loading of liquid oxygen. And then about a minute after that, the same should happen on stage 2. Then 1 minute before launch, Falcon 9 will enter startup, which means that its onboard computers will take over control of the launch sequence. And then a few seconds after that, the launch director will hopefully pull go for launch. And that is followed by... Oh, that sounds like the logs load is complete. And then just a few seconds before liftoff, when we're counting down to 0, the engine should ignite. And then at T0, the Falcon 9 is released from its clamps from the launch pad. And hopefully it should lift off into the Florida skies, launching these 29 Starlinks to add to SpaceX's internet constellation.
Indeed. That call out for stage 2 logs load complete should be happening in just a few seconds. Propellant load has finished, has been already wrapped up on the first stage. And one other thing that we should see there after the stage 2 liquid oxygen load is complete will be the comeback of the Stromback vent, just like we see at the T-minus minute mark. And we'll hear also the gas closeout call out as well, getting rid of all of the remaining...
Box load is complete.
Well, there you go. Stage 2 liquid oxygen load complete. But yeah, we'll see the venting of the remaining fluids, the pressure on the lines and whatnot, getting all of that saved for liftoff in just 93 seconds. Let's see. Let's hope for no
Ground gas closeout.
no bad callouts, please. There we go. Ground gas closeouts.
I'm thinking happy thoughts and calm weather and all of that.
Yeah.
So
All of the venting from the Stromback, from the reaction fixture at the base there of the rocket. Should be coming up on the call out for startup. That's when the ground computers hand over control of the countdown to the Falcon 9 rocket.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
There we go. Falcon 9 is now controlling the countdown, doing many different checkouts, and now we'll see if we get the go for launch.
LD, go for launch.
Let's go. We are go for launch. just a little bit over 30 seconds to go. We'll have first some of those last second venting and whatnot. We'll see the flash from the engines as they ignite. We'll get the vapor and the different lights and everything, and also the rainbirds as the rocket lifts off in just 10 seconds. We can see water deluge has been activated. We've got engine ignition and liftoff of Starlink 1051, getting another 29 Starlink V2 mini satellites into low Earth orbit. Go B1069. Falcon 9 heading into space, all the way to the northeast, hugging the coast of the United States, and getting that very nice 29 satellites, that really precious payload, I guess, into low Earth orbit. Now, as you can see, they are passing 25 kilometers in altitude, 3,500 kilometers per hour in speed, pulling nearly 3 Gs. They are all 9 Merlin engines up and running, and we have now MVAC engine chill. You can see that venting of the MVAC chill on the left-hand side of the booster from that view. We're still getting some ground views, some ground camera tracking as best as we can. Remember, we have no field today because they are getting sort of ready for new land later today, but we can see there, wow, look at that. That transition into blue flames as the air gets thinner and thinner and we approach main engine cutoff, which is right there. There you can see first stage has shut down its 9 Merlin engines, and we should be moving on to second stage. That looks like MVAC ignition, and now we're going to see that from the rocket view. And there we go. MVAC ignition. Getting some velocity there. We should be seeing now those grid fins deploy. The fairings deploy on the second stage as well, as they clear out the thickest part of the atmosphere. And they're no longer needed because it's already thin enough. There we go. Bye, goodbye, fairings. Those, of course, are gonna be, wow, look at that. Those are the lightnings that we saw earlier today. But yeah, those fairing halves are going to be parachuting down and splashing down in the Atlantic Ocean and going to be recovered by fairing recovery vessel
Both
Doug.
stages are on a nominal trajectory.
Nice. Poof. Okay, first stage done its job, separated. It's now coasting. Second stage heading into orbit on the power of that Merlin vacuum engine. That's some nice views of those thunderstorms.
Yeah. Quite cool to see. It's nice we're not flying through them.
Yeah. I guess that's why they were able to launch, because they were launching over it rather than through it.
That makes sense, yeah. I believe one of the things that astronauts say is that thunderstorms are among the most impressive things to see from space. And
yeah,
just judging from these views, I think they might be right.
Yeah, one of the points of I guess point to point, is that you can avoid all of that. Like you go on a plane, right? And it's not just even longer than a point to point flight, but also the fact that you have to fly through that or have to avoid it, like have to fly around it, right? And then you're probably doing a longer flight or something like that. Point to point, you just go in space. There's no storms or anything like that. I guess you have solar storms or whatever, but those are different than the weather storms, I guess.
Why go around when you can go over?
Indeed, indeed. In any case, we can see now that the first stage has already passed its peak in its trajectory, its highest point, and it is
Stages
now coming
continue
back
to follow a
down.
nominal trajectory.
Thank you. That's a good call out. Everything going as expected. First stage now below 100 kilometers. What is traditionally, I guess, the Kármán line. If you watch Blue's live streams, right, they will tell you that's where their astronauts go. But in any event, yeah, wow, look at that. There's more thunderstorms down there. I hope that's not where the booster is going. I hope that's well beyond where they're landing this thing.
Well, if it is, they wouldn't have launched, I don't think.
Yeah, it will have happened like yesterday, right?
One
That they
Yeah.
had to scrub. Now I can say that because it's launched. They will have had to scrub due to weather, but obviously.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
Let's see that entry burn coming up here. 1 engine and 3 engines. Slowing down. Somebody said in chat, Alex, no, now the booster is gonna crash. No, it's not. It's not. I promise you, it's not. Okay. I think B1069 has already seen so much that I don't think it can even go through any of that.
It's very
Knock on wood.
experienced. It knows what to do. It has read the instructions, even though it's
Exactly.
going to land on a shortfall
On a
of
shortfall of
gravitas this time.
gravitas. Yeah. But there we can see slowing down, using the atmosphere to remove all of that speed that it's carrying, passing through 13 kilometers in altitude. Meanwhile, the second stage on the right-hand side is at 18,000, now 19,000 kilometers per hour. Should reach roughly 27,000. It's already reached its peak on its altitude while it is going into orbit. That is normal. It goes a little bit up, and then as it comes back down, it then enters orbit, right? It's like it's coming back down, but nope, it's not going through the atmosphere or anything because it's already in orbit. It's a very old trick. If you've played KSP, that sort of optimizes the way that you get into orbit. I think I can see the light of the
Fine-tuning
drone
that
ship.
trajectory.
Yeah. I think I can see the drone ship, yeah. There we go. Landing burn.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
Some clouds. Passing through the cloud.
Landing leg deploy.
Okay, landing legs out. And that looks to me
Stage
like
one
a good
burn.
landing. A bit vapor
Yes,
filled, I guess. But it is on the deck of a chauffeur of Gravitas' 28th landing. How badass is
Amazing.
that, right? That's amazing.
I've seen so many
I'm
of
back,
these
shut down.
already, but it never gets old.
Yeah.
It's just amazing every single time that they manage to do that, coming back from space, sticking the landing.
Yeah, and as someone said, I didn't curse it. I didn't jinx it. There you go. And we also have good MVAC shutdown and nominal orbital insertion of the second stage with a 29 Starlink V2 mini satellites into orbit. And of course, we got our replays because that's what we do after a launch. this also means we've got milestone met at the very least. Not broken, but at least met, which is nice.
So hopefully Neil Glenn will break that milestone later today.
Yep. Look at that. I always say this, but this is what you will see with your eyes. And I say that because for a long time, I did not realize that this is what you will see with your eyes until I saw it with my own eyes last year. So yeah, it's just this light in the background. You can see that there was still lightning, but that was the ones that we saw from the booster camera, right?
Yeah.
So
As we saw it, they just launched over it, alongside it, but not through it. So
yep.
that's good.
Just saying, Chris, if you're watching, I hope not because it's a bit early in the UK, but if you're watching, point to point, that's a really great point in favor of point to point, flying over weather rather than around it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
People are noticing the flashing lights on the tower. I think what happened is that the launch triggered maybe some kind of emergency system with all of the lights being like, oh my gosh, something happened. It's like, yeah, a launch happened. Ooh, somebody in chat asking, how do I post my videos or pictures from where I am? Look, if you go to our socials, like we have social pages on X, on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, like there's so many places. If you have one account there, you can tag us. You might be able to find our pages there. Probably have some official tag or something like that. And so you'll be able to share that with us on social media.
Yeah. If you got some pictures of this flight, let us know. We love to see them.
And I'm sure there's probably some of you that are out there, just getting ready to watch New Glenn, and you get a Starlink treat. Isn't that great? It's like you go watch a launch these days, and now you get a Starlink here and there. Then we can see some of those replays from the press side as well.
Looks amazing with all these clouds of water vapor being pushed out of the way.
Yeah, and this tracking, by the way, this is from Daniel. He's being part of the Space Coast Live team for a while. And the cameras that he's been using, they are not made for tracking the rocket. We used to have one. It's in camera hospital, I guess, if you will. And so we're trying to get a proper tracking camera, robotic tracking camera for operators to remotely control, blah, 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 blah. You don't need to know the whole deal. Point is, this is very complicated to track a rocket, even robotically, remotely. It's even more complicated when the camera itself is not made for tracking things. So shout out to Daniel, because of course he tried his best. And I mean, he got the rocket in view, so mission
And he
accomplished.
kept it in frame after until after stage 2 ignition. So
Exactly.
That was very good, very nice to see, amazing.
We got here a piece of support, which I should probably hit before we get closing here. For Sirius saying, thanks for your continuing coverage of all these frequent, almost ordinary launches. Look, we had to make that decision today of like, what do? We covered just with robots and let our field team rest a little bit, and we did that, right? Because the other option was we have a very busy and very tired field team, and then some of these tracking shots with New Glenn instead are like all, shaky and everything. They're full of caffeine and all that. So yeah, it's we still tried to cover this launch as best as we could, because we like covering these, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are really interested in these. So thanks for watching as always. Marty, thanks for being with me as well.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun, and we got to see a launch today. So,
Finally.
Finally, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so sorry, just a just one thing that I had to note in the background as well, because we have Carson operating this stream, and I was leaving a note for him that we should show that we've got on our YouTube channel the stream for New Glen's launch later today. He's been operating this stream, pushing all the buttons, pulling all the levers. But later today, we're gonna have that New Glenn launch coverage. We're gonna start maybe 4 hours before the launch window opens, maybe 3 hours before the launch window opens. Whenever we go live, if you go to our channel right now, you hit where it says NASA Spaceflight, you go there. There's a tab where it says live. You go there as well, and then you'll see the New Glenn launch. It should appear even on the homepage by all means. But in any case, if you go to the live tab, it'll appear there anyways. And you can go click the link, the little bell there, and that'll notify you when we go live. We also have notifications as well if you have the Next Spaceflight app, the website, all of that. I think with the website still doesn't get you notified yet. Maybe we'll have to work that out in the future. But the app definitely gets you notified when we are getting close to that launch. So, you know, it's going to be later today. The window opens at 8:45. Excuse me, not 8:45, 2:45 p.m. Eastern. It's 8:45 for me, Eastern time, for that launch of New Glenn. And of course, if you keep track of all of this, you can also keep track on the socials, on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of the different places. We're going to post updates there whenever we go live. Whenever this launch is happening, we'll be posting that out there. But as always, we'll see you on the next one, and thanks for watching.
And here we go.
We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roger, planet.
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside of lead off. Bring in SES off. Off. It's orange! 145! Oh my god! Oh my god! Decollage! Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
The methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?